One of the things that we've talked about today is attenuation, and we know that two factors determine attenuation: path length, or the distance that the sound beam is traveling, and the other is the frequency of sound emitted by the transducer. We also know that both of those things are directly related to attenuation. So the further the sound beam travels, the more it will attenuate, decrease in amplitude, power, and intensity. Also, the higher the frequency, the more attenuation will occur. So for example, I'm going to try and image Loretta's kidney. I'm going to use a linear probe, which has a higher frequency at around 11 megahertz. So this is the image that I create. So as you can see, this doesn't really show anything. The kidney is a deeper structure when you're doing a supine approach or an anterior approach, and it's not penetrating far enough to create an image. So we can't change the location of the kidneys, but what we can do is manipulate the other factor that determines the extent of attenuation: frequency.
Now we're switching to a curvilinear probe, which has a base frequency of 3 megahertz. Let's try and image the kidney now. This is the image with the lower frequency that the probe produces. You do not need to change the probe to change the frequency. This knob here will also change the frequency while you're scanning, and it will change the image. Here's 3, and here's 5 megahertz. Here we can see a side-by-side image created with the same transducer using different frequencies. Notice how the image on the right has a higher frequency and a greater resolution. Our goal as sonographers is always to use the highest frequency that allows to achieve our desired depth of penetration.
As sonographers, we can also manipulate attenuation in a sense when we use our TGCs. Time gain compensation is called so because it compensates for attenuation of ultrasound energy with depth. Depth and time are somewhat synonymous in an ultrasound because the ultrasound machine calculates the depth of structures based on how long it takes for the ultrasound beam to reflect to the structure back to the transducer again. As we know, time-dependent attenuation causes severe signal loss if we don't compensate for it. So when we manipulate our TGCs, we are doing just that. We are increasing the intensity of the received signal in proportion to the depth in order to maintain a more uniform picture throughout our entire field of view. We can also use our overall gains to compensate or manipulate the entire image at once.
We've also talked about reflection, scatter, and absorption, the three processes that contribute to attenuation. So of these, reflection is the most easily viewed on ultrasound. So we have these two types of reflection. We have specular and diffuse reflection. Specular reflectors are large, smooth surfaces where the sound wave is reflected back to the transducer in a singular direction. So an excellent example of this is bone. I'm going to scan over Loretta's mid-abdominal aorta. So we can see the spine here is the bright hyperechoic line. It has the posterior shadowing. And that's due to the greater acoustic impedance between the two tissues of soft tissue and bone. So the greater the acoustic impedance between the two tissue surfaces, the greater the reflection and the brighter the echo will be on ultrasound, and we can see that spine echo is pretty bright. So more common to sonographers like us, though, will be diffuse reflection. So this type of reflection deals with uneven surfaces like soft tissue, which we know comprises most of the body. The uneven surfaces of soft tissue cause the reflections to return in various directions in relation to the transducer and the transmitted beam. So you can see this in real time when we scan over Loretta's right kidney. Sorry guys, I hate kidneys. All right, so the different acoustic impedances of the structures located within the kidney result in the various shades of gray seen on our ultrasound screen.